Welcome to Hitting the Field. I'm your host, Connor Engelhart, and alongside me here at the desks, Eric Scott and Troy Kless. We'll start the week by talking about the busy weekend in the Premier League overseas. Now, guys, Jamie Vardy, he's having a party. He's scored in 11 straight games by breaking Ruud van Nistelrooy's record of previously. Now, Leicester, they tied Man U 1-1. Troy, can you talk about the game and Jamie Vardy's performance?
Well, the game overall, it wasn't that impressive. It wasn't very lively. I mean, it was really a battle in the midfield, but we saw on the goal, the record-breaking goal from Jamie Vardy, a quick counterattack, getting up the field, and just clinical finishing from Vardy. That's what he's been able to do all season, and that's why he's the top scorer in the Premier League, and that's another reason why he's been able to, bring Leicester into the top four, basically.
Yeah, you said it. The way he's able to sit on that last defender and really make those runs in behind. All 14 of the goals have been in the box, but you look at the way he takes on people with pace and speed. He's been creative in the final third. Leicester deserve to be at that spot. They have to be a little bit careful. Conceded 21 goals. That's 7 more than anyone else in the top 7, only second to Liverpool. So they need to be careful, but they've been impressive.
Yeah, but one thing about Leicester that's really impressed me is they're the only team in the Premier League who's scored a goal each game. And that really happens in the midfield with Albrighton and Mahrez. Mahrez leading the team with 6 assists. But obviously, Vardy's the go-to man right now. He's being scouted by all the big teams, like Man United. So let's talk about Man United. Now, they tied the game. They're now in third with 28 points, only 1 point off the top spot. What has their performance really been like so far this season? Have they shown that third-place quality?
I don't really think they have, honestly. It's been really drab, basically. Starting in the midfield, with guys like Bastian Schweinsteiger, and even up in that attacking midfield role, Wayne Rooney, he's been almost a ghost of his former self that we've seen. He was subbed off in the 68th minute of that game against Leicester. He just hasn't been showing the form that he needs to and really be the creative attacking midfielder that he normally is, providing guys like Anthony Martial and Memphis Depay the chances. And those two, besides the hot start that they haven't been consistent enough.
Yeah, you look at Manchester United, probably the most scrutinized top 4 team in the Premier League in a while. But the reality is it's easy to play against them. You just need to put 11 behind the ball and allow the counterattack to develop, because those outside wingbacks, they want to get high and they want to get in the attack, but there's been nothing. It's just been possession in the midfield. For Manchester United, they have not been able to figure out how to get goals, and they're not using Martial right. They got him out wide. Memphis isn't playing well at times. He's coming off the bench. They need to figure out a way to get Martial up top and get Mata and Rooney utilized in the best way possible.
No, you're absolutely right with the counterattack. That is how Man U gets hurt. But I will give credit to United because Chris Smalling at defense, he stepped up his game no matter what this season. United's only given up 10 goals in the Premier League, and in the last 10 games so far in all competitions, they haven't lost. Even though they've drawn 6 of those games, United, they haven't shown the potential to go on and win the title, but they have shown top 4 quality, and they haven't lost the big games. Unlike Chelsea, who we're going to move on to next, when they've had a tough start to the season after winning the Premier League last year. They're now in 15th place. Now, they drew Spurs 0-0 on the weekend in London. Troy, what were your takeaways on the game, and how can Chelsea improve?
I think we saw a more positive performance from Chelsea this weekend. I mean, only mustering 1 shot on target. That doesn't say a whole lot about their offense, but, we saw a classic Mourinho-esque game where they just got bunkered down. They were able to defend well and really frustrate Tottenham, who's, they've been really excellent all season with guys like Harry Kane, Dele Alli, and Christian Eriksen. That trio is really effective for Tottenham. Mauricio Pochettino is, they've got them going in the right direction.
Yeah, when does Chelsea start to say it's emergency mode and it's time to win? 7 losses now on the year. Willian's been the only bright spot, and a lot of his goals have come from set pieces. You have to be upset with Hazard. He just hasn't done enough. Player that was supposed to be one of the best in the world coming into the year, been non-existent. The problem I think here is Mourinho. He's such a player's manager, and when you fall out of favor like Diego Costa, you saw the incident that happened in extra time the other day. It becomes a problem when you're not giving players the opportunity to play up top. But I mean, Diego Costa knows he hasn't been playing well. I think he's frustrated with himself, and he wants to take that on Mourinho.
Yeah, but Mourinho also set up that game against Spurs to hold against the attack from Tottenham. But Diego Costa, he sat on the bench this game. He really was frustrated, and hopefully Chelsea can push forward, but the way everything's been looking, they had the 1 shot on target, and it was a great chance from Hazard, but Hugo Lloris made a great save. But now we're going to move on from the Premier League to the MLS Cup is set. The Columbus Crew will host the Portland Timbers this Sunday. Guys, what were your takeaways from the conference matchup finals?
Well, starting on the Western Conference, Portland Timbers versus FC Dallas, that was a really high-intensity game, especially in the second half. Portland, they did really well to, press high up the field and get that goal that almost sealed the deal, basically, and took them through. But FC Dallas, who were able to press really high and really high-paced counterattack. But again, Portland Timbers, they did just enough to squeeze through. And I think, with guys like Diego Valeri and Darlington Nagbe, you have those creative players in the midfield that, able to create those chances. And they've been really hot for Portland all season.
Yeah, you go over to the Eastern Conference, you look at Columbus Crew, exactly Ethan Finley, what he's been able to do for that team. Now 13 assists, 12 goals in the year. He's been a complete player in the final third. He's been a surprise, and hopefully he gets a call-up with the national team. And then you look at just how they've been able to score goals. Columbus Crew, in the first minute of that first leg, you look at that game and just a great finish, and then they go back into the last 5 minutes. In New York Red Bulls, I really felt like they felt that pressure. That second goal killed them, and they pressed yesterday. They tried. Sesha Kleshin did not have a good game yesterday. Just too much possession lost in the midfield. So Columbus Crew, they executed perfectly.
See, the Columbus Crew and the Timbers, they both played a similar style because they had the leads in those games. They played more defensive, and then they counterattacked. But all credit to both the FC Dallas and New York Red Bulls because they both put on great shows in the second half and pushed the game really hard. So we got the matchup between the Columbus Crew and the Portland Timbers. Who do you guys have in that matchup in the MLS Cup?
I got the Portland Timbers. I think from front to back, they've been a really consistent team all season, especially right now going into the playoffs. They've been hot all season. I also think they have a bit of a flair for the dramatic as well. I mean, you saw in the last leg, that goal from Esprilla able to, seal the deal for them. And, just having those, creative moments and the dramaticness, it'll help you in a big game like an MLS Cup final.
Yeah, I go back to the Crew. I have the Crew. Ethan Finley, he's my X factor in that game. Federico Higuain, Kai Kamara, 22 goals on the season. Columbus Crew are able to score and almost score at will. I think that creativity in that final third that we were talking about earlier, it's going to be enough for the Crew. It's going to be a tight game because Timbers do not concede that much. 11 shutouts on the year, so it's going to be a good game.
I do think it's going to be a great game. Coach Porter's going to set up the Timbers perfectly, but I think Kai Kamara is going to be the X factor, and I'm going to give the edge to the Columbus Crew. So coming up after the break, we will talk about Kobe finally hanging up his shoes, and we'll talk about the start of the fantasy football playoffs, and we'll tell you who you guys should start in your fantasy leagues. Hitting the field, we'll be right back.
Dangerous driving extends beyond just speeding, especially in the rain where light usage can be the most dangerous thing you do. This high-performance sports car might be able to handle tight corners in the rain, but if the driver can't see drivers around him, it just doesn't matter. Driving with your hazard lights on is illegal in the state of Florida, regardless of weather conditions. Hazard lights are only to be used while stopped on the side of the road. It makes it easier for emergency services to distinguish cars stopped on the shoulder. Not driving with your hazards on also makes turn signals clearly visible, along with brake lights. Increasing the visibility of your car in the rain will make your trips infinitely safer. And of course, remember that speed is the most important thing you can control while driving in severe weather. Speed and low grip are a deadly combination at any level of driver skill. For more information, visit your local Florida Department of Transportation office or the website shown below. Control the roads and enjoy the journey.
Central Florida is the perfect place to study, earn a degree, and of course, to enjoy everything that Central Florida has to offer.
From theme parks to dinner shows and, of course, the movies, Orlando offers many unique and exciting activities to do. However, we all know that a ticket to any of these attractions can be expensive, especially on a college student budget.
UCF's Student Government Association has the nights covered with the SGA Tickets Center.
Located at the heart of campus inside Student Union, SGA Tickets Center offers tickets at a special discounted price to UCF students, faculty, and staff.
Not only do they have discounted tickets for theme parks, but they also have discounted tickets for other attractions like Blue Man Group, Pirates Dinner Adventure, and Kennedy Space Center.
Save your money and experience all Orlando has to offer.
For more information, you can visit their website.
Welcome back to Hitting the Field. On Sunday, Kobe Bryant finally announced that he's retiring at the conclusion of this season. Guys, what will you remember most about Kobe Bryant?
I think for me, it's definitely his impact and overall legacy for the game. His mental aspect and his attitude is one thing that everyone constantly reveres around the league. I think it's best summed up when you look at young guys like Paul George, and you look at guys like DeMar DeRozan, they said once he announced it that Kobe was everything to them. He was an idol to them. Paul George said in his own words, he was my Michael Jordan. And I think when you look at his mentality and his drive to win, is matched only by probably one person in the history of this league.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant, he did so much for the league, played in over 200 career NBA playoff games, averaged 25 points in the playoffs. What he did for the Lakers organization, what he did for that team for over 15 years. Kobe Bryant at times was the best player in the league, and we have to thank him for that.
See, I'm going to remember that 81-point game against the Raptors. That game in 2006 with Stuart Scott on the call, with the Sports Center. It was just too much.
Yeah.
He went off and scored 55 in the second half alone. It's the second most all time, and that's what I'm going to remember personally about Kobe.
I think one thing that I think now, as Kobe's now in the twilight of his career, basketball fans everywhere, even if you don't like Kobe Bryant as a person, you have to respect him and what he's done for the game and the legacy that he's left. And I think one thing that when we look at it, he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. 17-time NBA All-Star, 5-time NBA champion. He's done everything you want in this league. The fact that he only has one MVP is a robbery, but that's a topic for another day. All right, but I think that when we look at this, Kobe Bryant's overall legacy will be the fact that no one, and I think in NBA history, strived and fought harder than Kobe Bryant. And even though he may have not been the Boy Scout that people wanted him to be at times, and he may be been tough, he will always be respected. And I think that's one thing that every player in the league should strive for. They want to be the next Kobe Bryant. And, he's a once-in-a-generation type of player.
Yeah, and we hope that he can go out the way he would want to. Obviously, the Lakers are probably not going to be in the Western Conference playoffs this year. But if Kobe Bryant can just get everything he wants out of this season, teach as much as he can before he's finally done, then it would be great for Kobe.
He needs to teach the young people how he played when he was a younger player. And that fadeaway is just too much for anybody to handle. So we're going to move on from basketball to the fantasy football world because the playoffs are here. And Josh and Eric and myself are going to help you decide who you guys are going to pick to start and sit for the week. So our first matchup we're going to have for the fantasy football talk is going to be between James Jones and Vincent Jackson, a battle of the wide receivers. Now, who would you start and who would you sit, Josh?
You know what? They're both Captain Inconsistent. And be honest, it was a toss-up for me. Basically, with Vincent Jackson and both James Jones, they both have inconsistent weeks week in, week out. I decided to go with Jones, only for the fact that they're both heading off against each other. And I trust Aaron Rodgers to throw to James Jones more than I trust Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson has a grand total, 4 receptions for the last 2 weeks. So, it's not even worth starting him. I wouldn't do it, personally.
Yeah, if I'm you, I start Vincent Jackson. In the last 4 games against Atlanta, 95 yards per game, 4 touchdowns. Mike Evans has not been as good as he wanted to be for the Bucs this year. He's dropped a lot of passes. Jameis Winston, 2 weeks back, now having Vincent Jackson. I look for him to have a connection next week.
I kind of want to go with you, but I'm going to go with James Jones. Even though James Jones is so, volatile because he has 5 games with double-digit points where he has scored touchdowns, but he also has 3 games where he hasn't even he's got a goose egg in those games. So I'm going to go with James Jones, though, because he got 0 points against the Lions the last time they played, and I think he's at least going to score 1 touchdown. So moving on to the running backs, we're going to have Jeremy Langford and Darren McFadden. This is a really tough decision because they both came in for injured running backs and have played really good so far this season.
I have Langford, and I'm going to tell you why. One, Langford I think is the better option. He's facing off against a mediocre 49ers defense. And when you look at this, Langford has a touchdown in each of his past 4 games. He's averaging 17 points between the last 4 games at that time. And when you think about it, it's a clear-cut decision when the Redskins are facing off against the Cowboys. They're not going to respect the pass because Romo is out, and they're going to sit in the box on the defense side.
I would start McFadden. In the last 6 games, he's averaging 19 carries per game. He's facing off against a Washington who's 28th in total defense. Like you said, Romo's out this week, so they're going to have to trust Darren McFadden. They're going to have to give him more carries than expected, and I look for McFadden to have a good big game. I'm
actually going to go with McFadden as well. Since he's come in and started, he's had 3 100-yard games, and also that Redskins defense he's facing. In fantasy world, they've given up multiple points each game, and the most they've had in a game is 12 points. Mm-hmm. So that Redskins defense is really weak. So moving on to the quarterback situation, we got Ryan Tannehill and Tyrod Taylor. Josh, this is a tough one because both quarterbacks aren't the best.
Well, I'll put it like this. Tannehill, I'm going to roll with him, only for the fact that Tyrod Taylor is going to be coming up against a defense that's definitely more surging Texans defense, and they've only allowed they haven't allowed a touchdown in the last 18 quarters. So
Yeah, we couldn't agree today. I got Tyrod Taylor. He's finally coming home after 3 weeks on the road. I think Tyrod is start.
I'm going to go with Tannehill because he put up 22 points last week against the Jets, and he's playing against the Ravens this week. So I'm going to go with Tannehill. But coming up after the break, Daniel Bird and Brett West will discuss all the madness going on in college football right now.
Tonight on Deals After Dark. When I think of quality sunglasses, I think of boldness, but simplicity. And nothing provides both of those more than this set. Tonight, we have a pair of beautiful used matte black Oakley Holbrook sunglasses. These glasses offer an American frame accented with metal rivets and Oakley icons, perfect for buyers seeking performance and style. And do we have a deal for you guys tonight? For the next 40 seconds, that's right, 40 seconds, you have a chance to get your hands on this exclusive featured price of $110 or best offer. This deal, usually only available on Craigslist, could be yours for the 8 super easy payments of $13.75. Wow, I'm now hearing that we've actually gone down to one single pair. So if you're interested in this deal or any other products from our program, you can always log on to dealsafterdark.com or call us at 1-800-555-DEAL. See you next time.
There are many scary things in this world, but what really frightens the seeds out of me is going the fall season without the Night of the Living Dead. I'm not talking about the movie, I'm talking about Magic Hat's new fall variety pack. Inside the Night of the Living Dead, there is the Wilhelm Scream, which is infused with the most important fall flavor, pumpkin of course. Then there's Miss Bliss, who is rich with citrus, but a little bitter, probably about last night. You can't forget about the mysterious number 9. It's dry, it's crisp, it's a pale ale, but not really. Lastly, the resurrected ale, the brew that has come back to life to haunt you with the Irish taste that started it all. Begin the new season with Magic Hat's Night of the Living Dead, and you will experience beer that will make you scream, cry, live and die, then come back to life as a pumpkin, like me.
Welcome back to Hitting the Field. Last night, it was reported by multiple sources that Bowling Green State head coach Dino Babers is going to be named the UCF football's new head coach. Babers did deny the report on Twitter, though, last night. Brett, what's your reaction to this situation?
You know, I think we got to go prehistoric. Bring in Dino Babers. He's got that up-tempo offense. He comes from Baylor. He comes from Art Briles. And it's just that it's the thing that college football is just going to. Quick, up-tempo. You snap the ball, play it out, go up to the line, you're up and at it again. You're scoring points. They've scored over 30 points almost every game this year, something that UCF struggled with. And he is a big-time quarterbacks coach. That's the one thing he's known for. He coached Jimmy Garoppolo at Eastern Illinois, and now with his quarterback Matt Johnson at Bowling Green right now, he's unreal. And I think that's really going to help Holman because he did struggle this year. He regressed. Last year he played pretty well. This year he just didn't get it done. So I really think if we get him, Danny White's first hire as the AD, getting this football coach would be a phenomenal hire, A+ if this is what's happening.
Yeah, there's no doubt that we need work on offense, and Babers could be that guy to help us out there. But the only problem I have with this is that there's still rumors at this point. Nothing's confirmed. He's gone out and denied it. And this could look really bad for UCF if we cannot get a MAC coach to come into the AAC. We're trying to move up into the Big 12 possibly. So we have to be able to go out and get these coaches. They won't have to want to come here.
Well, I think the big thing is that he doesn't. He's got a championship game coming up, and he doesn't want, players are going to, they might quit on a coach. They're like, oh, man, he's going to be gone in next week. So they might just quit. And I think that's why he's denying it. And the other thing that they've got is that he's got that buyout clause where on December 1st, his contract goes down from $300,000 to $200,000 for his buyout. And I think that's another thing that's holding him up. But, coaches always say, hey, I'm not leaving. And then guess what? Next week they're
gone. It always happens. Fuente from Memphis, the same thing, kind of maybe wanted to hold it off and then eventually took the Virginia Tech job. And he's a hot commodity, though. And is UCF the best job he's going to get offered? I don't know.
Yeah,
and that's
the thing
what worries
you
me.
hear about Bowling Green is everyone's like, why is he going to UCF? Why is he not getting a better job? But, I think we're a good school. We just had a rough situation this year. So I think we're good. And what I also hope is that he's not using us as a stepping stone. Come here for a year and then gone, like maybe like Tom Herman or those other kind of coaches.
Yeah, I'm sure Danny White doesn't want that to be his first hire, a guy who just comes and goes in 1 year. I mean, that can't look good for anyone in the program.
See, I know Brett told me that he thinks this would be a good hire, but Daniel, do you think Babers would be a good hire for UCF?
I do. I think, like you were talking about earlier, Brett, I mean, Justin Holman regressed this season. Babers is the guy who can help him out next season. You look, Matt Johnson this season leads the FBS with 4,465 pass yards, second with 41 touchdown passes. Our offense was abysmal all season. We put 3 up against USF. He's the guy that can really move our offense along. And if we get an offense going, our defense was good enough, I thought, this season. They just were out there a lot and got tired. We could be a contender next season in the conference.
Yeah, it's obviously known that UCF's offense needs a bit of juice going forward with only scoring 3 points in that big game against USF this weekend.
Yeah, that was
so
embarrassing.
we're going to need a lot of things going forward. But last weekend in college football, the regular season ended, and now the conference championships are coming on. So what were your expectations and what were your reactions from last weekend's crazy weekend?
Actually, I didn't think it was that crazy. I thought everything kind of went status quo for the most part. But one thing I did take away, it was kind of like the opposite of Oprah. Oprah's like, you get this, you get that. Well, guess what? All the ADs were like, you don't have a job, you don't have a job, you don't have a job. Everyone was getting fired last week. It was like the Black Friday sale for coaches. Everyone's getting fired. There was like 3 or 4 coaches fired, resigning. And, we go from about 7 or 8 jobs open. It's in double digits now. Georgia firing Mark Richt. I thought that was a little unprecedented. The other thing I took away is Les Miles. Was that like the ultimate Les Miles move? It's like when fake field goals and fake punts are just too mainstream now. They're like, oh, we're going to fire our coach. Oh, just kidding. We're not going to fire him. He's our guy. And, and that actually I think affected the recruiting with Felipe Franks. He decommitted from LSU, went to Florida. And I think that's part of the problem. But, that whole coaching carousel is starting to take off. And it's going to be interesting these next couple of weeks to see what happens with all these coaches.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't remember there being this many top-level jobs available all at one time. My biggest takeaway, though, is there's no great college team.
Agreed.
This
100%.
season. Everyone has a huge weak spot. Even Alabama, who is still my number one, if we were going to go playoffs. But I think Clemson, a close game with South Carolina, that
was embarrassing.
South Carolina should never have
been in that game.
And
they had a big lead and they blew it.
Exactly. And
how do you let someone with that bad of an offense come back into the game?
It would have been chaos had Clemson dropped that game. Alabama, though, against an Auburn team who, again, a lackluster offense, they keep them around. It's a closer game than I think what the scoreline looked like in the end.
Yeah, but Auburn also took one of those lucky Auburn plays at Malzahn.
Oh, that tip drill.
Seems to find every single year where guys like bobbling the ball. Oh, yeah, I got it. And it runs in the end zone.
There must be something in the water in Auburn where they can pull out some magical plays. Kick six, whatever, tip drill. We do. Big. If we can get some of that water.
We might have won one game. We might be firm.
Maybe that's what the basement should start serving, some miracle water, help the team out a little bit.
Yeah, but what about that Notre Dame-Stanford game? That one,
that was unreal.
Notre Dame went and scored with 30 seconds left.
Yeah. I was watching the Florida game, and I saw Notre Dame's going oh man, they're going to pull it out. What a great, it was a back and forth game. I was like, what a great game. And I saw Stanford kicks the game winning. I'm like, what happened?
Saved our picks right there.
Yeah, seriously, I was doing terrible. Ooh, let's not talk about picks. I did terrible last week. But yeah, I thought that was a crazy game.
What also about the Iowa-Nebraska game? That was a close one, keeping Iowa in the playoff contention.
I thought Iowa was pretty impressive, actually. I think going into Nebraska, it's a tough place to go win, especially with all the pressure on them that they had, knowing that they can, be in that playoff if they win out. I think they played pretty well. Again, not super impressive, but I think they played well.
Yeah, Iowa took care of business. That's just what they've been doing all year, and they're not impressive. I watched them, and they're just they're okay. But if they take care of business, you can't fault them for that.
Now, Iowa's one of those teams that you might want to put in your playoffs. I want to get your guys' takes on the playoffs. Daniel, we'll start with you. Who's your top 4 for the college football playoff right now?
All right, my top 4, it doesn't change from last week. Alabama still is the best team, and like I said, best team of not great teams. I think overall, Derrick Henry. 46 carries last week. That's amazing. Over 200 yards. I think he'll win the Heisman. I think he's almost a lock for it. Clemson, number 2, just Deshaun Watson playing very well. I think they're clearly the second best team. Iowa impressed me against Nebraska, like I said earlier. I still want to see them play Michigan State, though I don't know if they can have enough to get past. But until then, they're undefeated. I think they're the 3 seed. And Oklahoma just put a hurting on Oklahoma State, and I think they stay at number 4. They have 3 quality wins this season. I don't really think, aside from Michigan State, anyone else has that kind of strength of schedule.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually jumping Alabama to number 1. I don't think I had them at number 2 last week, but Alabama's number 1. They took care of business. Auburn always gives them trouble. It's rivalry weekend. But, Derrick Henry is a load. No one can stop him. 46 carries, and he still averaged 5.5, almost 6 yards a carry in that game, and had his touchdown over 200 yards, nearly almost 300. So, keeping them at number 1, and then number 2, got to go Clemson, even though they struggled, and that's why I dropped them. You struggle with South Carolina. Auburn's a little more respectable than South Carolina, so I'm going to drop them. Deshaun Watson played out of his mind. He had a good game. He did have one costly fumble, and that's one thing that he does do. He keeps other teams in the game sometimes because of his turnovers. He's thrown a good amount of picks. He fumbles the ball, but he moves the offense. Defense is pretty solid, so I'm going to keep them at number 2. Number 3, I got Oklahoma, blowing out Oklahoma State out of the water. They've been ultra impressive since, Baker Mayfield has kind of like come along in the offense. It's crazy. He was at Texas Tech and didn't have a scholarship. How do you not have a scholarship for this guy? But, I'm going to keep them number 3 with that offense. And they've got a good running game, which most Big 12 teams don't, is that they have a solid running game, solid passing game, and a pretty good defense. And then number 4, I've got Iowa, but that number 4 spot is reserved for the Big 10 championship. Winner of that gets the number 4 spot. Michigan State may even be able to jump Oklahoma if they show out and just blow Iowa out of the water, which I think they probably will. And they might be able to get that number 3 spot, but, I agree with you. There's not a good team this year. They're good
Really
teams,
not.
but there's not a great team. There's no one on paper. I'm like, man, they're just going to blow everyone out. There's just, I don't know. I think this playoff is as wide open as it's ever been.
Which is crazy to think about because Ohio State was such a favorite coming into the season. I mean, the biggest favorite of all time.
Yeah.
And now, we don't know who's going to win. But that's exciting, I
Yeah,
think.
that's what makes it fun.
Always.
Now, you guys are mentioning it. The 4 spot is reserved for that Big Ten title game. Who do you guys have in that game between Iowa and Michigan State?
I got Michigan State. Iowa just hasn't shown me enough. I watched them against Nebraska, and they struggled. And I know Michigan State actually lost to Nebraska, but I don't know. I just watched them. Their quarterback doesn't turn the ball over, which is good, but just their running game, I think Michigan State with that front, with that front 7, they shut down Ohio State. They're going to shut them. They're going to shut down Iowa. I got Michigan State.
I have absolutely no idea who's going to win this game. I feel like Michigan State might be the favorite. Just who they played, who they beat in Ohio State and Michigan, but something tells me Iowa's going to pull this one out close, so I'm going to go with Iowa.
See, you got to try and make up in the standings by picking
I am
Iowa.
down. I know.
Because Brett holds the lead right now. He's
Whatever you go, I'm going
9-4.
opposite.
Daniel's at 7-6 so far, and the hosts are actually under 500 at 6-7. So
Time
you know
for a
what?
comeback.
Step
I'm
up
gonna
your
be.
game, guys.
I'm gonna
You guys need to step up your game.
No,
Come on.
I'm gonna be-
You're making this too easy for me.
Don't worry.
Brett, I'm going to be smart and go with you and go with Michigan State.
Oh.
Now we're going to go to the SEC championship game between Alabama and Florida. Is this a hard pick or not?
No. Alabama wins by at least 30.
Alabama is clearly the better team, and they're going to roll Florida. But I'm going to go with Florida just to make up some movement.
This is where I'm going to jump ahead of you in the standings, Alabama. Let's go to the Pac-12 championship game, Stanford or USC?
Stanford. No one can stop McCaffrey. He's just been unreal this year. Probably maybe second or third in the Heisman standings right now.
I think Stanford's the better team. I think USC finds a way to pull it out. They've come on. They had a bad loss to Oregon a couple weeks ago, but I think they're going to find a way to beat
Oregon's
Stanford second time around.
Oregon's been playing a lot better.
Oregon might be one of the best teams, top 4 teams in the nation right now.
Yeah.
Just 3 losses puts them out.
So is that USC right there?
I'm going to go USC. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take Stanford after that great win against Notre Dame. And let's go to the ACC championship game between North Carolina and Clemson.
Yeah, I actually got North Carolina in this one. I really think they're going to pull it off, and that's going to be my upset pick. And I think they're going to ruin Clemson's season.
That would be horrible for Clemson. You make it all the way to the last game before the playoff and you drop it. I don't think they do it. I think they finally end this hot streak North Carolina's on.
I'm going to go with Clemson and keep them in the playoff hunt. Well, that's all we have for this week's show. Thanks for watching Hitting the Field, and have a great rest of the day.